Welcome to Car and Driver. Each year since 1983, our team has gathered for 10 Best, a week-long evaluation where we gather the most complete advice on which new vehicles you should be looking at for the coming year. Now, if you've already seen our 10 Best Cars video, you know that we've separated the award from 10 Best Cars to 10 Best Trucks and SUVs, and you should already know how the process works. But if you haven't, it's pretty simple. In order to be invited, a vehicle must be on sale by January 31st. It must cost less than 110 grand. We increased the price cap this year due to rising average transaction prices. And lastly, a vehicle must be new or significantly updated. One exception to that rule is that we invite last year's winners back to defend their title. Now, our evaluation involves driving vehicles back to back on the same roads, instrumented testing where we measure acceleration and interior noise and other things, and we also consider the usability of these vehicles, how friendly their interiors are and how much stuff they can hold. After doing all this, we take a bunch of notes and score everything on a 100-point scale. Ultimately, we're prioritizing three criteria: a vehicle's value, how well it fulfills its mission, and how enjoyable it is to drive. And without further ado, here are the winners, presenting the 10 best trucks and SUVs you can buy in 2023. Sometimes a new vehicle blows our minds at its debut, and then our enthusiasm wanes as the years go on. If you look back, the history of 10 Best is littered with examples of this. Fortunately though, the Ford Bronco is no such vehicle. Although the hype is receding and Broncos are now a common sight, we're still smitten with Ford's throwback SUV. It delivers supreme open-air off-road talent along with tolerable highway manners. You know, this independent front suspension idea might catch on. Credit Ford for stoking the fire even though the Bronco is still relatively new and hugely popular. The all-conquering Raptor is basically a street-legal king of the hammers truck. It has 37-inch tires and reached 60 miles an hour in 5.6 seconds in our testing. And Ford hasn't neglected its existing owners either, releasing a factory upgrade that takes the 2.3-liter four-cylinder up to 330 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque, and you get rev matching for the manual transmission for only $825. Speaking of manual transmissions, the Bronco fans complained that the Sasquatch off-road package wasn't available with the manual, so Ford made it happen. We're optimistic that if we keep repeating Bronco V8 long enough, it too will become real. Even if it doesn't, the Bronco offers something for almost everyone. Minimalists can get a 4-cylinder 2-door model with steel wheels. Realists might go for a 4-door Outer Banks and its on-pavement civility. And survivalists can get an Everglades with its winch and snorkel to park next to their bug-out compound. All of those models share a commitment to fun, an attitude that driving ought to be a good time whether on or off-road. Removing the Bronco's doors is easy, as is opening the top. The interior looks like it could tolerate a squall. Ford even built a series of off-road playgrounds around the country called off-rodeos. That alone tells you that the Bronco's goals transcend mere transportation. A Bronco should deliver a bit of a spark every time you start it up, and in its third model year, this Bronco still does. No category of vehicles has embraced the bigger is better mindset more than pickup trucks. Today's full-size trucks go larger and larger, and, pulled along in their wake, the next tier down mid-size pickups have also increased in size, leaving a vacuum at the base of the market. For a long time, however, the conventional wisdom was that buyers wouldn't be interested in a small pickup and that automakers couldn't build one profitably. Ford certainly embraced the one-upmanship that spurred ever larger pickups with its F-150, yet the company determined that, yes, there was a case to be made for a true compact truck, and when the Ford Maverick appeared, the buying public went nuts. The first year's production sold out in January, and when the order window for the 2023 model opened at the end of last summer, buyers again waved their checkbooks and cleaned out dealers within days. We understand the enthusiasm. The Maverick has a unibody construction, but with a payload capacity of up to 1,500 pounds, it's not a truck in just name alone. Of course, it's not going to be able to tow a jetliner, but the 250 horsepower turbocharged four-cylinder has a 4,000-pound tow rating, and that's enough for real-world tasks like a small snowmobile trailer or a personal watercraft or two. At the same time, the standard front-wheel drive only hybrid tugs just 2,000 pounds, but returns an eye-popping 42 mpg in the city according to the EPA. The optional Turbo 4 is considerably less fuel efficient, but it's strong enough to send the Maverick to 60 in a brisk 5.9 seconds when we tested it. But it's not merely economy, there's also a lot of livability here. The size of the cab means you don't have to climb up off the ground to access it. Same with the bed, it doesn't require lifting heavy objects 4 feet in the air just to load them, and the sightlines mean you can actually see what's in front of the truck. Easy to own, easy to use, and easy to live with, the Maverick proves that when done right, the just enough truck can be just right. The number of times gas station customers have asked us at the pump, "Hey, is that a Hyundai?" has mercifully diminished. Clearly, the Genesis brand has rocketed upwards in the public consciousness, no doubt due to the growing lineup of truly luxurious products. That includes past 10 Best winners such as the G70 sports sedan and the plush GV80 SUV. The GV70 is the latest Genesis to earn a spot on this list, and it does so with a thoughtful balance of comfort and athleticism, not to mention its artfully penned design. The GV70 is also a value-oriented proposition that undercuts its rivals from BMW and Jaguar and Porsche by thousands of dollars. Two satisfying powertrains are offered, starting with a turbocharged 2.5-liter four-cylinder that makes 300 horsepower. The even more powerful 375 horsepower twin-turbo V6 reached 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds in our testing, and it did so with a refined but muted engine note that keeps the cabin serene. Handling isn't as sharp as a Porsche Macan, but the GV70 held its own on our 10 Best evaluation loop as our editors returned from test drives with smiles on their faces. The V6 GV70 comes equipped with adaptive dampers that let the driver decide which personality to unlock. Left in the most comfortable setting, the suspension is compliant without the floatiness of its larger competitors. With the drive mode set to Sport Plus, the GV70 is ready to hustle. It even has launch control. The GV70 offers everything that shoppers in this segment should be looking for, like space and comfort for 4 adults, a commanding view of the road from the driver's seat, and enough cargo space for the occasional trip to the big box store. The Genesis's broad appeal makes it a welcome entry to our 10 Best list. We truly believe it has something for every kind of buyer, even car nuts like maybe yourself. We expected Honda's latest CR-V to be competent. They always are in an anonymous kind of way. But this new 6th generation went way further than we expected. This is a well-rounded package that punches way above its weight in multiple areas. You feel it as soon as you shut the door and get rolling, as the structure immediately feels tight, hushed, and substantial. The body shell is more rigid, partly because structural adhesive now supplements the usual weld spots, and there's additional sound insulation. Hybrid versions take things a step further with thicker front-side glass and an acoustic windshield. Once you're underway, the new CR-V delivers the kind of smooth and settled ride you'd expect from a more upmarket vehicle. The steering is willing and predictable, and the chassis cuts a steady arc through turns. The Sport trim's thicker anti-roll bars inspire more confidence, but the ride remains steady even on twisty and damaged pavement sections of our test loop. The interior feels substantial too, with an attractive styling theme shared with the Honda Civic, another 10 Best winner. The instrument panel is attractive yet logical, with an infotainment interface that feels familiar and approachable. Both rows of seats are spacious and comfortable, with a good amount of cargo capacity behind. 2 powertrains are offered. A 190 horsepower turbo 1.5-liter four-cylinder is paired with a continuously variable automatic transmission in the EX and EXL models. It's generally agreeable, but can become slightly coarse when worked hard. The Sport and Sport Touring models feature a 204 horsepower hybrid system whose 2-liter engine can either propel the vehicle directly while cruising, or spin a generator to supply the electric motor in real time under acceleration. The engine RPM rises and falls as if shifting is occurring,
but it's a choreographed show to project normality and prevent droning while the electric motor smoothly and steadily drives the vehicle forward.
The hybrid payoff is huge. You get up to 40 mpg combined compared to the base engine's 30 mpg combined. And the hybrid cost payback is only a few years, even less if you consider the higher content in the sport trim levels. That's our most recommended version of this highly recommended vehicle.
If winning our EV of the Year award is like winning a Grammy for Best Album in a given genre, getting a 10 Best award is more like taking Album of the Year. The former celebrates the winner's place among its peers, while the latter honors a performance across the greater industry.
The Hyundai Ioniq 5 has earned 2 of our top prizes, with this 2022 EV of the Year award winner also earning its place on our 10 Best Trucks and SUVs list for 2023. And much of what makes this vehicle a standout stems from the fact that Hyundai developed it as a dedicated battery electric vehicle.
Built on the automaker's EV-specific eGMP platform, the Ioniq 5 takes advantage of the underfloor position of its battery pack and the compact rear or front and rear axle mounted motors by pushing its 4 wheels to the 4 corners of its body. Despite being similar in size as Hyundai's compact Tucson SUV, the Ioniq 5's wheelbase is longer than that of the 3-row Palisade. This stance means lots of passenger space, and the positioning of the SUV's 3-across rear bench gives it more legroom than a Genesis G90. Hyundai further enhances the spacious feel of the cabin by the way of large windows and an open front floor that's uninterrupted by a center console. An 800-volt electrical architecture enables fast charging rates of both the standard 58 kWh battery pack or the available 77.4 kWh pack. In our testing, an all-wheel drive Ioniq 5 with the big battery needed just 11 minutes to add 100 miles of real-world highway range on a DC fast charger. That same Ioniq 5 required just 4.5 seconds to accelerate to 60 miles an hour in our testing, courtesy of 320 horsepower from 2 drive motors.
Yet the Ioniq 5's best attribute has to be this retro-futuristic design. From a distance, it looks deceivingly simple, but as you get closer, you see there's all kinds of delightful details in its bodywork and trim pieces. Even for non-car enthusiasts, this is the kind of vehicle that just screams cool.
The Ioniq 5 is not free of flaws. It suffers from a tiny frunk and a full-size SUV-like turning radius. Even so, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is a stellar EV and a genuinely compelling vehicle, battery-powered or otherwise. We haven't awarded an EV with a 10 Best trophy since 2017, so this year is proof that the neighborhood Electric Avenue Bisex has been rehabilitated. The yawn-inducing sub-200-mile offerings have been pushed aside, and vibrant new entries are popping up all over. Consider the Kia EV6, which is mechanically similar to the Hyundai Ioniq 5. How did Kia get us excited about a mufflerless crossover as soft to the ears as NPR commentary? We'll answer that with another question. Who could say no to an SUV with an available drift mode? The Kia EV6 gets the basics right too.
As with the Ioniq 5, the EV6 has an 800-volt architecture that enables extremely quick charging speeds when you're hooked up to a properly working DC fast charger. In our testing, the EV6 needed only 11 minutes to add 100 miles of real-world highway range. That's a really good performance for an EV.
With up to 310 miles of EPA estimated range, the EV6 currently has the most offered of any EV priced under $50,000. There's also ample cargo space behind the rear seats, but these practical metrics are just an aside to what we really love about this thing.
The EV6 shares its platform and powertrain with the Ioniq 5, but so far as of the time of this recording, the EV6 is available with 576 horsepower, and as it turns out, that much power easily sways our collective opinion.
It wasn't long ago that our 10 Best Trucks list was a block of small BMWs, big Benzes, and the occasional minivan. But times change. Electric lawnmowers quietly cut the grass, streetlights glow with bright LEDs, and now there's a Kia EV that's quicker than a Mustang Shelby GT500. Welcome to the neighborhood, champ. We can and often do go on about quarter-mile times, skid pad Gs, and how it just feels nice to rev match a downshift. But we also know that most people, most of the time, are just inching along in the drop-off line at school or slogging from stoplight to stoplight in a never-ending series of errands. As today's family car of choice, three-row SUVs are sentenced to live out much of their days doing this kind of duty, along with road trips, carpooling, and the occasional big cargo haul. It can be grindingly mundane, but the Kia Telluride proves your three-row SUV doesn't have to be.
The Telluride's degree of polish, well-considered design, its features, and just plain niceness help elevate the everyday.
Its 291 horsepower V6 and 8-speed automatic provide effortless acceleration. Its composed chassis is tuned well to the task at hand, and if you care to live some of that SUV dream life, the Telluride acquits itself capably on the occasional unpaved road. More so this year with the arrival of standard hill descent control, along with slightly higher ground clearance for the X-Line and X-Pro trim levels.
When we subjected a 2020 Telluride to our 40,000-mile long-term test, we said that Kia has built a Range Rover for the middle class. And we didn't mean just by design, interior quality, or a long list of features, although the Telluride has all that. We meant that the Telluride is truly a class above.
This is the Telluride's fourth straight 10 Best win, and its runaway sales success and buyers' demonstrated willingness to accept egregious dealer markups have given Kia the green light to raise prices. It has. As a result, the Telluride is no longer the screaming bargain it was when it first appeared, but it still strikes us as a good value. It's just that now, the secret's out. With a nimbleness rarely found among the higher-riding breed of vehicles, the Porsche Macan drives like it belongs on our 10 Best Cars list. At the GTS trim level, the Macan feels like an enlarged hot hatch with ultra-sharp steering complemented by a poised chassis. A 434 horsepower twin-turbo V6 doesn't hurt either. The seating position sits taller than in Porsche's iconic sports cars, but you quickly forget that while you're piloting a roughly 4,300-pound crossover. The 7-speed dual clutch executes rapid, snappy shifts with the click of a cool metal paddles, or responds nearly telepathically when you leave it in automatic. The entire package boosts the driver's confidence with every turn of the wheel and prod of the pedals.
Even the base Macan still provides the typical Porsche driving excellence. And sure, its turbocharged 4-cylinder doesn't sound as good as the V6 that you get with the S and this GTS, but it still delivers a healthy 261 horsepower.
The base model really wakes up in the sportier drive modes and exhibits the same balanced and agile handling as the more dynamic Macan variants. Despite the focus on driver enjoyment, the Macan still serves as a usable commuter. The ride is smooth and the cabin is comfortable, although it's a bit tight. The fit and finish is impeccable, and the materials are luxurious and modern, even if gloss black plastic that appears on many high-touch surfaces turns certain areas into a magnet for fingerprints.
Now, all this greatness does come with a steep price of entry. The base Macan will set you back $60,000 or near to it before options, and the GTS we evaluated had an as-tested price of just over $100,000. That's a lot of money, but the Macan is unmatched when it comes to driving dynamics, and you get a high-quality interior that's befitting of the price.
The Macan's ability to be both a thrill-seeking corner-carving rocket and a pleasant luxury cruiser regardless of trim level or powertrain solidifies its spot on our 10 Best list. While it feels like the full-size truck status quo is evolving now that electric propulsion has entered the segment, it's the Ram's traditional formula that produces the most satisfying pickup today. This truck was last redesigned for 2019, but the Ram 1500's excellence in execution has given it remarkable staying power, landing on our 10 Best list for the 5th straight year.
What the Ram 1500 does, it does better than any other pickup. Its coil spring rear suspension gives it a ride quality that's like a luxury SUV, and it makes the bouncy F-150 feel like a farm truck by comparison.
The optional 5.7-liter V8 makes a satisfyingly nostalgic roar, and yet still manages decent fuel economy when it's equipped with the e-Torque 48-volt hybrid system. The supercharged TRX with its 702 horsepower V8 is an exercise in absurdity and has the off-road capability and wow factor to support its mission. The Ram's interior is its most impressive feature, an important plus considering that's where you spend most of your time. The upper trim levels feature materials like leather, metal trim, and open-pore wood. It's the kind of attention to detail that we expect in a Mercedes S-Class. And even the cheaper versions have sound ergonomics, crisp digital displays, and buttons and knobs that are satisfying to the touch. If you actually use your truck like a truck, you'll likely appreciate things like air springs that can lower the truck for loading or hooking up a trailer, and useful storage boxes in and around the bed and cab.
Do yourself a favor and skip the debate over which truck currently has the highest payload and towing ratings. If the half-ton Ram can't handle your hauling needs, you probably need a heavy-duty pickup truck anyway.
For everyone else looking for an everyday pickup, the Ram is the one to meet your needs and exceed your expectations. It just so happened that we picked 3 pickup trucks for 10 Best this year, in size small, medium, and large. When you take out the typical truck negatives like ride quality, cabin noise, and fuel economy, you're left with a practical package. And much in the same way that the 90s popularized SUVs as the cool vehicle choice, the 2010s have normalized the pickup. The R1T is the most normal driving pickup we've ever sampled.
It sure helps that the R1T with 835 horsepower is the most powerful vehicle ever to make a 10 Best list. Its 4 electric motors, 1 per wheel, help navigate this 7,150-pound truck to 60 miles an hour in as little as 3 seconds.
One of the reasons the R1T is so heavy is its 128.9 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That power source nets a 75-mile-an-hour highway range of up to 280 miles. There are 2 other battery sizes coming, one larger and one smaller, as well as a 2-motor version that will start around $75,000. That model will likely become popular because it starts under the threshold that allows it to net a $7,500 federal tax credit. But acceleration and range aren't solely what makes this a winner. The interior design is high style, the seats are comfortable, and the cabin materials are ones that no contractor would recognize. Then there's the exemplary on-road dynamics.
Hydraulic anti-roll control, air springs, and adaptive dampers aren't common equipment on typical pickup trucks, but like we said, this isn't a typical pickup truck. It'll still tow 11,000 pounds, though not very far on a single charge. We did 110 miles with the 6,100-pound camper.
The Rivian's day-to-day livability overshadows all else. There's storage for your long and skinny gear and a novel tunnel behind the cab, a frunk, a decently sized bed, and even a removable speaker and flashlight. For anyone who daily drives a half-ton pickup, the R1T is way more than you'll ever need. It's also way better to drive than whatever truck you're used to, making it one of the best on the market.